So in the last video I fitted the ORE heavy duty bumper and said that there was a new modification coming that I was really excited for, but I don't know whether I under or oversold the idea, because the guesses ranged from things like an A-bar to a roof rack to wider wheel arches to a new remap to all kinds of things that I just wasn't expecting. Hello guys and welcome back to TSpec TV. I'm going to try and keep this intro fairly brief because both myself and more importantly the camera are getting pretty wet out here and I don't even know if you can hear me over this wind. But it is finally time to reveal the modification that I teased last week, and I know some of you won't agree with this decision or just won't understand my excitement, but I couldn't be happier with my choice to fit sawtooth alloy wheels to my Defender 90, and I've also got a set of brand new tyres on. And to talk through this whole decision and how it all came about, we're going to jump in and get out of this awful weather and go through everything that's happened since you last saw me. I don't dare stay out there for a second longer because my camera is absolutely soaked, and if anything happens to it I am a little bit screwed. I did want to do this video in a bit more of a dynamic manner, I guess you can say, and sort of go outdoors and walk around the vehicle and show off the bits and, you know, have it nice and clean and shiny and then maybe go somewhere interesting or whatever. But Storm Dennis decided that wasn't going to happen. We've just had non-stop rain and wind the last couple of weeks, and I know it's the same in the UK, but frankly it's getting a little bit silly now. And it also means that it just doesn't make sense to be standing outside with a very expensive camera in this kind of weather to try and film a video. So I am going to have to sit in here, and I will drive around. I'm not just going to stay in this position, that would be a bit boring. I am going to drive around and talk through why I have suddenly fitted a new set of sawtooth alloys and a new set of tyres, as well as some other things I want to talk about regarding this Defender. But before we set off, a couple of other things that have been fitted since last time. We've got new vents on the underside of the dash. These are sent by George Grafton on, I'll put his Instagram handle, and they're just really cool little adjustable vents that you can just twist around so you can choose where the air points. Normally they just point straight down at your feet, but now if you want it pointing up at you for some reason, if you want to dry your hair, maybe, that would be useful right now, then you can do that. But yeah, they're really cool actually, look like they're really well made, and it's a nice little thing to have, to be quite honest. So thank you very much for that. And then the other thing is this magnetic phone mount, which was sent to us by @SimonsDefender on Instagram. Simon, if you're watching, thank you very much. Another really cool, handy little thing to have. A really nice way to mount your phone without having the suction cup on the windscreen and then having a stupid clip that your phone rattles around in. This just stays, and actually I'm actually quite impressed that it manages to stay in the Defender, which, you know, obviously rattles around quite a lot. But that's really handy to have, and it keeps my phone in a really nice position without, you know, obscuring the rather small windscreen on the Defender. I'm going to start off with an apology. There may be quite a lot of background noise, and I mean wind and rain and windscreen wipers and the like. And that's just a fact of life right now. There's not much I can do about that, nor do I really have time to wait for a day when the weather will be better to film this video. I need to get on with it now. So we'll just have to put up with those things, but I will do my best to talk loudly and clearly so that you can actually hear me. But anyway, how did all of this come about? How have I suddenly got a new set of tyres, and why have I blown a load of money on a set of sawtooth alloy wheels when I could have used that money for something else right now in regards to improving this Defender? Well, basically, first off, I was always planning to put some alloy wheels on this Defender at some point. That was what I wanted to do. Now, for those of you that don't know, I did have steel wheels on before. I had black steel wheels, which were originally silver, but I then sandblasted and repainted them last summer when the Defender was having a new cross member fitted. Now, that was always meant to be temporary. Like I said, I always wanted to fit alloy wheels. That was just kind of a fun DIY project to do in the interim. And I also needed a new set of tyres at some point. I knew that because my old tyres were not in the best shape. But I think I just kind of neglected to do that slightly, having focused on all the steering gremlins that I had for such a long time that I just sort of ignored the tyres for the time being, because all my money and time was going on buying a new steering box and all the other things that we did. But then last September we went to LRO Peterborough, as I'm sure most of you know, the Land Rover Owners International show over there. And we met up with a company called Davanti, who are a relatively new tyre company in also sponsor Ed Cobley. Some of you might know Ed. He is 3 times Defender Rally champion. And he actually uses their Davanti tyres, all-terrain tyres, on his Defender Rally car, which is like a beefed up 110. And Davanti offered to send us a new set of tyres for my Defender, and I just said, well, it just so happens that I actually need a new set of tyres, so that just sort of all worked out perfectly. So they sent over a new set of tyres, and I thought, well, if I'm going to go and get a new set of alloy wheels, then it would make sense to do it now and have them fitted at the same time as the tyres, rather than do it later and you know, have to change it all over again. Because I expect these tyres to last for quite a while. So that was that basically. I just thought, okay, let's do that now. And I'd always wanted sawtooth alloy wheels. I love the way they look. I think they were launched back in 2011 when Land Rover, they launched a kind of, I don't know if it was a special edition or like a trim level, but it was something called X-Tech. It was the X-Tech Defender, which had a sort of facelifted front, different grille and light surrounds, and these sawtooth alloy wheels. I think that was when they were launched. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember seeing that back in 2011 when I was 15 or something. And I loved the way those X-Tech Defenders looked back then. But I was 15, so you know, it was like, yeah, I love the way they look, but you know, we didn't have this channel or anything, or I didn't have a Land Rover. And I'd always wanted sawtooths on a Defender since then, but I'd always assumed they were too expensive for me to acquire, or you know, to make sense to buy. But then I found out you can actually get, you don't have to buy the Land Rover sort of official sawtooth alloy wheels that you would get on a Defender you bought from the factory, because Britpart now also make their own sawtooth sort of replicas, I guess they are, because they're not original. So you can go somewhere like Paddock Spares or JGS 4x4. I went to Paddock's and get yourself a set of sawtooth alloy wheels, which is exactly what I did. And they were nowhere near as expensive as I was expecting. And it comes with the genuine Land Rover center caps, and all of that. It does come with some wheel nuts as well, but they were silver, and I, being the sort of OCD perfectionist I am with these things, I wanted them to be black, so I went out and bought some black alloy wheel nuts to go with them as well, because I just thought silver would look a bit weird and stand out on my Defender. So I went out and bought sawtooth alloys, wheel nuts, had the tyres, and I had them fitted a couple of weeks ago. And the idea with Davanti here is to basically test these tyres out and see how they do long term, because what I have on now is exactly the same size tyre as before, and this tyre is basically Davanti's equivalent to the BFG all-terrain. It is Davanti's all-terrain tyre, which is called Terratura, is the name they use for it. So it's just the competitor to the BFG. But there are some differences to the BFG, and I think what I'm going to do is get into that in a different video, because I am not going to pretend that I can remember all of the details that were sent to me about what makes this tyre so brilliant off the top of my head. I think that almost deserves its own video to talk about the tyres and the differences and how we can test them and all of that. But for now, I'm very grateful for Davanti having sent these tyres, so we'll just have to see how they do long term. I'm sure they'll be awesome. But like I say, I'll get into that in another video, I think, because I think it deserves its own video to be talked about. So they're the same size, they're an all-terrain tyre, and they are, I believe, the same type of tyre that Ed Cobley actually has on his Defender rally car. So I basically have a rally car now, if you actually think about it. But it's really cool to know, actually, that I have the same tyres that Ed Cobley is using, and you know, if they're good enough for him, then they're good enough for me, that's for sure. With his track record, basically, of success in Defender rallying, and as a professional driver, then they must be a good quality product. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do long term now. And immediately, you know, the Defender does drive better. That's not particularly surprising, because the old tyres were really, really not in great shape. So the fact that it drives better now already comes as no surprise whatsoever. It does feel a lot more stable on the road. I think the old tyres, they were worn, obviously, but maybe, you know, unevenly so. And I had slightly different front and back tyres, to be honest. I think there's BFG, is it KO1s or KO2s? I had like the KO1 KO1s on the back and KO2s on the front or something. They're slightly different. It's just the newer version of that tyre. So my front and backs were actually slightly different, and they were unevenly worn, and so not the most ideal setup. And I think now it's another step up in terms of improving all these steering gremlins that I've had by fitting these new tyres and the new rims as well. I think that will help. So it does feel a bit more stable. I haven't tried it at kind of motorway speeds yet, up to like 90, 100 kilometers an hour plus. I'm not convinced that the steering is perfect at those speeds. I think there still might be a bit of a shake or a wobble. But we'll have to see. Like right now, I'm only driving around locally, and 80 kilometers an hour is the national speed limit here. So, and at those speeds, it feels great. It actually feels a lot better than it did before. And in terms of the look, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I know a lot of you are a fan of the steel wheels, and also a lot of you don't think that something like Sawtooth's works on an older Defender. So I was a little bit nervous about how the look would actually turn out, whether it would look right. But no, I'm really happy with the look, especially when you've got the combination of the new heavy-duty bumper on the front, the ORE steering guard, all these little bits that have been done, the new door, like black door hinges, the wheel carrier. I think it all kind of brings it together. I think there's a couple things now which need to be replaced that kind of spoil the look of this Defender still for me, and that's number one, the dent on the right-hand wing, which has been there for a few years, and I am determined to fix this year. I think that really needs to be done now. And then the other thing is the sills underneath the doors. They don't look particularly nice, but I want to replace those with some tree or rock sliders. Been wanting to do that for ages, but they need to go. I think those things kind of spoil the look. Otherwise, I think it's pretty good right now. But then it brings up the question of whether I do more work to this. And part of this, I must admit, I can put the blame on Brendan, BJ Prudhomme on Instagram. Some of you might be familiar with him. He takes some awesome pictures. We met up with him at LRO a couple of years ago. But he has the now quite famous Defender 110 Darla, which he's just sort of done an almost rebuild of in some ways, by doing a bunch of bits on it and then respraying the whole thing. And it just looks absolutely fantastic. He sort of posted the reveal picture the other day on Instagram, and I was completely blown away by the look and how he's transformed the way Darla looks as a Defender. So then it got me thinking about all these bad ideas, like should I give my Defender a respray? Should I just rebuild the whole thing? Like all these kind of things which I just didn't need right now, both from a time and financial perspective. So then that got me thinking, well, okay, what if I just did, I bought new doors, because both the front doors are not in great shape underneath, they're pretty, rotten. And then the back door could use some love as well. Not to mention, I think my heated windscreen is not working, because it's been on, like, the last half an hour, and it's cleared a hole about this big on the windscreen. So should I get 3 new doors, have them sprayed in the correct colour, along with the wing at the same time, and put all these bits on to make it look a bit smarter? But then I go, well then should I just do the whole thing? And doors aren't cheap either. So then I just get carried away with all kinds of ideas about should I start replacing things. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below about what I should do. Should I sort of do some kind of rebuild or respray or what? But then the other issue is I don't have the space. I don't know where I'm going to put this Defender. Like, yes, we have the workshop where we film our videos, but that's an active workshop which often has tractors and other Land Rovers and lawnmowers and all kinds of things in it. So it's not like I can just stick this Defender in there for 6 to 12 months while I rebuild it. That's not going to happen. So I think that's probably being a bit optimistic to think about it in that way. But whether I could do something to smarten it up, maybe, like I say, at least the doors, who knows what, something like that. But let me know what you think should be next in terms of improving it. I think the wing should definitely be one of them to improve the look for me. That really spoils it for now. Here we go, this will put the tyres to the test. Do some hill climb here. I'm doing Club 86 proud here, I'm doing a hill climb in my Defender. Ooh, not bad. I was expecting some more understeer there. Wow, sounds so good. drive this Defender as much as I used to because it's no longer my daily driver, which trust me is a really good thing because it means it gets taken care of a bit more and it's not being used day in, day out. But it does mean that when I take it out, it makes it so much more special because you forget how good it sounds and just the feeling of driving a Defender. You can't replace that. Nothing else drives like this. I mean, other than maybe another Land Rover, but you know, nothing outside of that green oval world that we all get lost in. I think I'm kind of running out of things to say at this point, so there's probably a shine. I've turned into Sean Connery. A shine, this video should end. A sign that this video should end. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thanks so much for your continued support. It means everything to us. Let me know what you think of the wheels. Let me know what you think the next step for making this Defender great again should